What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel with me, Clem Boogie. We're at week 11 of the college football season. A couple of top 5 teams have seemingly dropped out. Some hopes of entering the college football playoffs have diminished. But have they really gone? I know. We seen Alabama get stunned by LSU last week. And we seen Clemson obviously take a loss to Notre Dame. Two teams that were posted right there at the top 5, at the brink. Now, Alabama is a perennial over there. Clemson, obviously a clear-cut surprise, obviously from the struggles of the past 2 years. Dabo Swinney has his troops rebounded and prominent to the years of their winning ways. But it's different. Who can remember the time when we were doing all this and looking to figure out who was going to be the national champion in college football through a computer? Yeah, it was a terrible idea. Now that we're far removed from that, we're now edging towards steps of it not only being in the playoffs, which we have in the last 4 to 5 years, but they are looking to expand it. I mean, by the time I reach, whatever age at that point in time, we might have a full-on wide range playoff where every single team will be in viable position for the playoff and the ability to hoist that trophy at that point in time, whoever it is sponsored by. I know currently the last couple of years have been sponsored by Dr. Pepper. But, that's something for another day. I don't know what to make of this season, but it's getting really hard. We're at the twilight of this season, so to speak, and these bets are getting harder and harder week after week. So I tell you this, you better start looking at some key pointers. Yes, I know I'm not very good at overanalyzing things and stretching out the truth, but it's about who's playing, who's hot, and who's maintaining certain streaks, who has a stronghold. There's a lot of payback games and so forth. So with that being said, you know how I give it up on this channel. 4 picks, 1 upset alert. Let's make some money. First game up, we have Missouri versus Tennessee. Last week, we saw a very disappointing display by Tennessee. They simply could not get anything to go their way, nothing to go, anything positive turned out to be a negative for Tennessee versus Georgia of last week. But this is a new week. I'm looking for Tennessee most notably to push their way and impose their will, to find a way and work out their frustrations. Everything and all that energy they had pent up, pending from last week's loss, look for them to take out their frustration on this Missouri team. Missouri does not pose any kind of threat to this Tennessee team, at least not this week. Hayden Hooker took a big hit in his Heisman candidacy. I don't know if he's even going to be in the top 5 of, notables to be afforded to come into New York City for that award. But anyway, it doesn't take away from the impressive season he's had thus far. But like I said, I'm looking for Tennessee to run shop all over the place, all over Missouri, and I'm taking Tennessee covering the 19.5 points. Next game up is Wisconsin versus Iowa. Now, if you're looking for attractive numbers, sexy style of play, this game ain't it. Both these teams are below average on the offensive end. They provide minimal scoring. It's more so of a grind, very methodical approach on both sides of the ball for both these teams. But with that being said, if you watch any game involving Iowa or Wisconsin for that matter, they don't score. So with that being said, I'm taking the under, and I think it's currently dipping. I think the last time I saw it, it was at 36.5. Expect that number to dip. These teams, they'll play a lot of defense, but scoring, that's not it. But like I said, my pick for this game is the under. Next game up is Ole Miss versus Alabama. Lane Kiffin is an offensive genius. I don't know about that guy. His attitude and his swag seems to precede itself. He's a very intelligent coach. You might not see it through his demeanor. He's very Jekyll and Hyde, so to speak, but he gets the job done. He gets the most effectiveness and execution out of his players. I don't know what it is that he says or does, but he knows how to recruit. He knows how to scheme offense. But on the other side, there is Nick Saban. His staple and his stamp is defense. Yet Alabama has struggled this season, as they have 2 losses to their name thus far in this season, which is the most and earliest in a Nick Saban era since he's arrived in Tuscaloosa. But with that being said, it is going to be a clash of the Titans. And what I mean by that is that look for Lane Kiffin to try to push the ball down the field. That's going to be their best bet against this young secondary of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And look for Alabama to just out-physical Tennessee. It's just going to be, a gut-wrenching game. Both teams have explosive players, very skilled players on both sides and both ends. But my gut feeling is telling me to take Alabama. They, have 2 losses, as I stated before. It's a disappointing season thus far. But people have to remember, this is not the same team of years past. They don't have the same receivers. Their defense is not as stout. It's just times have changed. I'm not going to say that Nick Saban is losing his touch or he's losing his, proverbial reign over the SEC, but people are challenging him. And especially with the NIL in place and things of that nature, things change. The tide has changed. Times change. So with that being said, I look for a high-scoring game, but I don't put it past Nick Saban to just frustrate Lane Kiffin and his crew. I look for Alabama to come out on top. I know they're giving 11.5, 12 points in this game, but I'm looking for Alabama to make a statement. I mean, probably the national championship and getting into the college football playoff is in the rearview mirror, but doesn't mean Nick Saban can't pump his guys to work out hard. So I'm looking for the Alabama Crimson Tide to cover the 12 points. Next game up is Arizona versus UCLA. People, I'm not going to hold you up. This is not a game where you look for defensive stops, a whole bunch of 3-and-outs. Nope. You're going to see a lot of trickery, a lot of the long balls thrown down the field, a lot of dash and gash plays, a lot of drives that probably end quicker than a 24-second shot clock in the NBA. But with that being said, the over stands at 77.5 points. When you start to see totals edge over 69 and, even 65.5 and things of that nature, bookmakers are trying to tell you, do not choose the under. Do not expect a very well strategized game. Do not think this is your grandfather's type of football game. It is not. This is Southern California area. These guys are just going to run up and down the field until everyone has a headache. They look like they've been hypnotized, and you cannot make any sense of the score. I mean, let's face it, the score could probably look like a UCLA Arizona NCAA basketball game when this is all said and done. But with all that being said, I'm going with the over. I mean, unless you're living under a rock, I don't know what to tell you. But 77.5 points, and I'm telling you, as the day progresses, you can look for that number to only edge higher. So I'm going with the over, and that's my pick. My upset alert this week comes by way of the Iowa State versus Oklahoma State game. Now, I don't really understand what's going on with Oklahoma State other than Spencer Saunders has been hurt or having some kind of nagging injury that's, robbing him of this season. I believe he's in his junior or senior year. Either way, he's going to be drafted. Probably not going to be in the first round, which was probably a preseason, prediction by most scouts, but he'll be in the NFL. We'll see him playing on a Sunday some way, somehow. But with that being said, Iowa State, they're a very tricky team. They get up for these kind of games. This is somewhat of a rivalry game. in the Big 12. Anybody that knows anything about the Big 12, they take their games very, very seriously. The team could have 0 wins within the season, but once they play their pseudo rival, they get up for those games, whether they're home, away, or neutral ground. Like I said, Oklahoma State, they're going through a lot of things. I think it's time for Mike Gundy to step down or part ways or however they want to classify it. It's just going to be hard. These kind of things take time. And as I stated before, time is of the essence. Time brings about change and evolvement. Probably those guys are just tired of his voice. It's time for a change in the sense of getting a new body, a new spirit, some new guidance in there. I don't know what it's going to take. I'm not a booster of OK State, and I'm not a graduate. I'm not an alumnus. I'm not any of those things. But what I can tell you is this is not normally what they play. This is not their type of football. This is not their style. This is not their MO. But, all things come to an end. And it looks like this is the total culmination of that. So with that being said, I like Iowa State to just, kind of end Oklahoma State's lackluster season in this. And, this rivalry, which has been, very, very inspiring, it's going to be, definitely some push and shove, some, everyone's going to be trying to impose their will on both ends. But I'm going with Iowa State, not only with getting the points, I'm looking for Iowa State to just flat out win and upset their rivals, which have owned this series in past years. So, once again, my pick is Iowa State to flat out win. So there you have it. We have 4 solid picks, 1 upset alert. You know how this gets down. Teamwork makes the dream work. Please subscribe, comment. It helps the channel. Like, also you can criticize. I'm not above criticism. There's always room for improvement, and I'm just looking to get better. But one thing I can tell you is I'm not going to bombard you with useless information. You guys ultimately make those picks. You guys control your own destiny. After all, you're not winning the money for me. You're winning it for yourself. But it does make me proud and happy when someone hits me up and says, you were right. Or, how did you come about this, determination of what said game? It's just a conversation, people. That's all I'm here to do, have conversations and help strategize how you go about making your picks. But until next time, it's with me, Clem Boogie.